Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. Today on Expedition Networking, I have Robert Butwin. He is a professional networker, a strategist, connector, and what he likes to call psychologically unemployable. Robert, I'm the same way. I think anybody in their right mind would ever hire me at this point in time.
You know, I haven't worked a job since September 7th, 1990. And, just the thought of ever working a job again, dealing with the politics and everything else that goes along with the job, not interested.
Well, my way of looking at it is it's less about the money, because you could take money from somebody, but you give up the opportunity.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. And then you're working on their dream, and, it's like, what's your time worth?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm here, my grandsons, and we help my daughter and her husband buy a house half a mile. My grandkids are over here every day. I get to spend time with them. I'm going to be going to Arizona to spend time with my mother because I've got freedom. I don't have to worry about working around somebody else's schedule.
Yeah. Well, that's a great jumping off point. Let's talk about, who you are, what you do, and how you got to this point, all the, how you've used relationships, because just in the couple times we've had to talk, this is audio only, so many people can't see. He's got some awesome sports memorabilia in his office. He's got a signed Michael Jordan jersey, signed Tom Brady jersey, Wayne Gretzky, Yogi Berra. Who am I missing?
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell.
He's got most rings than any basketball player.
Yeah. There's stories behind that. I mean, you have just literally used relationships to get where you're at. And I don't want to conflate it like you are worth $1 million, right? You're worth,
Yeah.
you've got $1 million lifestyle. And I think that's huge.
I'm a millionaire. I'm a multimillionaire. I've made a lot of money, but the key isn't how much you make. It's what you keep and what you do with the money that you make. But yes, I'm well off.
Yeah. Well, I think you're mainly well off because you get to see your grandkids every day, right? I think that's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. I've got a 3 and 11-year-old, and it's like I'm spending quality time. I'm making a difference based on what I do. I love what I do.
Yeah. So anyhow, let's tell us the story tell me how you became psychologically unemployable.
Interesting story, because it's not what I originally set off to do. I was the oldest son, 3rd generation family business. We started the high school ward cheerleading jacket business. Always liked playing sports. I played #1 man in our golf team when I was going through high school. But when I was going through college, and I loved to network and develop friendships. And at the University of Minnesota, they had like what they called the All IM team. And I was sort of on the competitive side. So I was out recruiting and networking different people. So in fact, some of the people that I met through my networking in college was Paul Holmgren, played for the Philadelphia Flyers, got stories about him. Reed Larson played for the Detroit Red Wings. Going to the University of Minnesota, Herbie Brooks was there. A couple guys that were on my IM sports teams played in the '80 Olympics team that upset the Russians. So ultimately, I've loved people, love meeting people, and always expected to run our family business. But the challenge was there's too much family in the family business. My grandmother wanted to make sure all of her grandkids made approximately about the same amount of money. And that did not fit my business model of what I felt was fair, because I believe producers should be able to make what a producer makes. It's not just family members. Right. So I had to pivot. And on my way out, I ended up, and this is an in-depth story, but I ended up running a nightclub because I was figuring out what to do. Mm-hmm. And the owners of the nightclub had just sabotaged the nightclub, and I ended up bringing it to the #1 nightclub, but that wasn't where I made my money. And I'm grateful that I got out of that because I would have never met my wife, who I've been happily married to for 35 years. And I got into direct marketing and, network marketing, MLM, whatever. And the, foundation of that is being able to network.
Yeah.
How do you create relationships? How do you develop new friendships? And so it was like right up my alley, and everybody would always tell me I was a natural networker. So I sort of always was programmed that, and that's how I've become a network marketer and made a lot of money in direct marketing. And I've gone beyond network marketing. I mean, yeah, that's part of my history and part of who I am. But I love networking and what it's about.
Interesting. So, much of what you devote your time to is the multi-level marketing space, or network marketing, let's call it.
I did in the past.
Okay.
In the past, I mean, do I still collect residual income from some companies and networks I built? Yeah. I've got one company that's paid me for over 35 years, another one over 20 years, because I found products and services that I believed in.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, that was part of how I've become who I am today.
I gotcha. What do you think are the biggest mistakes that people make out there in the networking space? I mean, you've just because you're a good networker doesn't mean everybody you come across is a good networker.
Sure. I mean, first of all, one of the biggest mistakes is they're thinking only transaction. Really what networking is, it's sort of like opening a bank account.
Right.
You need to make deposits before you can make withdrawals. So if you're only thinking about transaction, you're thinking short term, not long term. You want to focus on, and when I started in this profession, they said the average person knew approximately 300 people, 250 to 300 people. Today with social media, I would probably gather to say that number's like 3,000 people. Not that they've got intimate relationships, but they've got the outreach. So another mistake that a lot of people make is they see one person as one person, not one person as many.
Right.
And so if you're focused on the transaction, people I believe are numb to being pitched. It's like my wife about a month ago started taking me off of email lists. How many email lists do you think she's taken me off in the last month?
Probably 50, 100. I don't know.
Over 600.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
With people selling social media, it's like I've got a free account with Zoom, and we're getting messages that I got somehow Zoom is sold my social media. Anything that you're getting for free, how do you think they can offer a service for free? They're selling your social media. So, it's like people are being numb to that. So you've got to make real connections.
Yeah.
You've got to show up and be there of value.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I tell people that all the time is don't look at the person. I don't think there's anything wrong with pitching somebody, depending upon how you pitch them, obviously. But if it's no, let it go. No is no. And then you just say, okay, well, who could you connect me to? Right.
Yeah. I mean, we all want to do businesses. The answer is yes. And one of the people, and you can get this information, I take a look at in my journey, how much money I spent on personal growth and development. It was a lot. Today, you can get almost all of it for free. One of the people I recommend, and one of the key concepts in everything that I do, is by Robert Cialdini, talking about reciprocity. How can I be of value up front? People, if you ask the question, and when I start a conversation with somebody, one of my first questions is, what can I do to be of value? What are you looking for? What can I do to be of service to you? Because people, and it's got to be authentic, because people realize, and then you got to deliver. If you make commitments, make sure you deliver. So I focus on being of value and being a servant to other people, because that way I earn the right to do business. Obviously, I want to do business. Don't get me wrong. But, I focus on being that servant first.
Well, I mean, you want to do business with people who want to do business with you, whereas a lot of people want to convince people that they should do business with them. And that's a huge difference. I guess just to share to the listeners, one of the things I have been impressed with Robert is he's what I call a collector of opportunities. He has a list of networking events, networking activities, virtual networking activities all around the country. that he freely shares. He's connected me with opportunities to be guests on podcasts as well as find guests for my podcasts. And again, those are just examples of serving. That pretty much what you're talking about. I mean, those are the perfect examples.
Yes, those are examples. If you take the time to understand who you're speaking with and focus on what you can do to demonstrate being a trusted advisor, of somebody that's there to help them, guess what? You're going to create a long-term relationship, chances are.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the memorabilia real quick, because
Sure.
a lot of times people think about business. They think about networking as, I got to get to B to get them to give me a check. That's networking. And you've got this great memorabilia. Unless you know Michael Jordan and Tom Brady and Bill Russell, chances are you don't. You came into this memorabilia. What's the story behind that?
The story actually, when my son was growing up, he went to a memorabilia shop and he pulled a Derek Jeter card out of a pack. And at that time, it was maybe worth $65. And I said, wow, this is sort of like legalized gambling. So I started getting involved in the memorabilia business to some degree. I'm not, just as a hobby. Now I ended up collecting the Michael Jordan rookie card. Now it's worth, I think I paid under $1,000. It's worth over $10,000 today. But, in networking, a guy that's become a very close friend owns a memorabilia shop. And because of our friendships, and I've traded him things, for example, when he goes to shows, I give him some of my perks that I got from my hotel rooms, and so I'm helping him. He helps me, and he always sells me stuff at wholesale. For example, the Jordan jersey behind me or the Brady jersey behind me paid under $1,000. I wasn't buying it because I expected it to go up in value. Guess what? Both of them have gone up in value.
Yeah.
But, it was something I could do with my son because, again, I wanted to make sure I had that connection with him because, in business, back when I was really rocking and rolling, so to speak, I was doing a lot of travel. I mean, United gave me a plaque that I did over 2 million miles. So, but again, I took something I was doing and developed a network around me of the right quality relationships. Just like I've got a lot of really good quality relationships that I've never really done business, but anytime I've got a question about something, because I haven't stayed up with the technology. So if I get a question about technology, I contact one of the people and I get, they're right there to help me.
When was the point when you realized just the power of relationships? Because we're not taught that in college. I mean, we do it, but, when it finally hits us like, wow, knowing things is great. Knowing people is so much better.
To me, people make the world go around, and I believe people at a grassroots level. And, I remember listening to J. Conrad Levinson's, stuff back when, but it's all about personal relationships, being able to, help people one way or the other. And I've, as a networker, I'm sure you've heard the saying that your net worth is in direct relationship to the value of your network. So most people think, okay, I'm going to go find, friends that are making a lot of money. No, if you focus on the network of people that you've created that's core strategic alliance with and find right context for them, what's going to happen? Their net worth is going to go up. They're my network. So ultimately, it's going to reciprocate back to me one way or the other. So, I see, how it all works together and focus on making sure that it works together in the right ways.
What'd you want to do when you were growing up?
At one point, I wanted to be a professional baseball player, but I realized my talent wasn't that good. And it was I mean, I was good, but not that good.
Right. Anything that was pretty much it?
Yeah, well, I wanted to run our family business. And,
okay.
And again, sometimes I believe in synchronicity, and that's one of the key things about networking. When you mentioned the list of different Zoom meetings, my mindset synchronistically is I'm going to show up and I'm going to meet the right person. Now, how do I operate when I'm in those meetings? I focus on being of value. I focus on listening to the other people and sharing something that would be worthwhile for the other person, because, I came up with an acronym of pitch, PITCH, which is, the P is practice and perfect your presentation. You ultimately know what kind of time frame you have for that. And the I is your intention. Your intention is to say something that people in the back of their mind say, I should get to know that person better. T is think about who you're speaking about. C is clarity, simple, profound messaging. H is how and why people should get back to you. So, I focus on being of value every time I get the opportunity. I don't care what platform. My mindset is, what can I say that would be of value? For example, when I'm talking right now, what am I going to say that I'm somehow going to, help somebody have that defining moment, saying that I can do something better. I might be able to improve my networking skills. I want to get to know that person. It's thinking about the people you're speaking with, in the audience of the people you're speaking in front of.
Interesting. Let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk about things you're working on and how people might be able to help you.
One of the things I'm working on, and I don't think I've sent you that 65-second video, and this talks about synchronicity also. One of the networking groups that I went to, a guy said, I'm going to do something the first time and only time. I'm going to create a free promotional video. Now, I took him up on it. It turned out great. It's helping things go to the next level. I put my calendar link in. I just signed up for Calendly last week. Part of it is, I came up with the 5 A's in the law of attraction. And let me real briefly share them because they're relevant to what we're talking about. Number 1, be aware of what you want. Number 2, the affirmations. Number 3, accept the things you need to change. That's where I'm all of a sudden embracing technology and figuring out the things that I need to add to what I'm doing. The next A is the actions necessary that you need to, create the things that you want to create. And the last A is attitude of gratitude. You got to be grateful for where you are as you're going to where you want to be. If we are open, the pieces of the puzzle that will allow us to create whatever we want to create, no matter what you want to create, are all around us. But you've got to get into action. You've got to have some kind of hope for a better future. And I love the 2 different acronyms of hope is helping other people every day, or helping other people elevate based on the fact that you can help them shift their vision. I mean, the thing that changed my life is listening to Wayne Dyer back in the day. It was called No Limit Person. And I started to realize that the limits that existed in my life, I was responsible for them being there. And see, once you take responsibility for what is, you can take it for what will be. But unfortunately, most people are in a state of denial. And I love the acronym of denial. Don't even notice I am lying. So by taking responsibility to, if you're just living an okay life, to going from an okay life to a great life, you can do it. Whatever you want, whoever's listening, it doesn't matter. I had that defining moment by listening to Wayne Dyer, and that changed my life. Maybe this, by your audience listening to this show, something that we're talking about, somehow they're going to relate and say, hey, I've been living a life that hasn't allowed me to do the things I wanted to. And I think I can make the right changes. And that's why they need to get back to you, Frank.
No, I agree. That 65-second video, is that something that we could put a link in the show notes on?
Sure. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you right afterwards. And you can do whatever you want. My calendar links there, whatever you want to do. I love what you're doing. You're bringing value and service. My definition of creating wealth, there's a direct relationship to the value and service that you bring to the marketplace and the rewards the marketplace will give you back. Who is the marketplace? The marketplace is people.
Yeah.
The more that we can bring value and service to people and not worry about how are the dollars going to come, the dollars will come.
Yeah. It's a leap of faith. It is, right?
Yeah.
Some people embark on it for about 2 weeks and then declare it not working. Right. And you can't put a timeline on it. Well, I really appreciate your time today. As soon as we stop recording here, we'll get all the particulars and for the show notes that people can access things. But I appreciate your time.
Great. Glad to be, to be here for everybody. And, you just got to keep going, no matter what's going on. A friend of mine used to talk about experience. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Don't allow your experiences to stop you. You deserve to create a better life.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.